Uhuru Sasa, which means freedom now in Kiswahili. You're listening to Diasporic music on Black Power 96. And it's on the buttons. And we have a special guest today. I'm going to let Melinda Francis, Molly Dr. Vexen introduce a comrade from Haiti by way of, are you in Ottawa and Montreal, sir?
I'm in Ottawa, Gatineau.
Ottawa, Gatineau. I've been. I remember being there once or twice. Melinda, you wanted to kick everything off.
Yes. I would like to welcome comrade and ongoing guest of Diasporic Music. He is an activist, he's a journalist, he's a radio host. I would like to welcome to the show Jean Afrique-Haiti, and welcome to show.
Other countries of the Caribbean, including this regional organization called CARICOM. In fact, the United States just 2 days ago, on August the 12th, announced that they've increased a bounty on the head of the man who's considered the most dangerous criminal in Haiti, a terrorist named Jimmy Jafrikayiti. This is a very, very, very important story for our folks to understand, because there's a lot of money being spent by the U.S. government to create confusion around this one person. Jimmy Jafrikayiti is a former policeman who is leading a group of terrorists in Haiti called Vivre Ensemble, or before that, group G9. They are armed with U.S. weapons that come almost 95% from the United States, from Florida. Some come from Israel. But in any case, all of these weapons manufactured far away from Haitian shores get to Haiti with the complicity of U.S. authorities. And so they've armed this criminal, facilitated his crime sprees, and now they're pretending that they're looking for him. Okay, there's an arrest warrant after this guy dated January 31st, 2020. The guy is doing Facebook Lives, is on YouTube, he's doing interviews with Al Jazeera journalist, and is in regular communication with the U.S. Embassy by the admission of the former U.S. ambassador himself, Dennis Hankins. And he's got a couple of white men who pretend to be progressive leftists in New York, Kenneth Ives and Dan Cohen, who are doing documentaries about this guy, mocking the Haitian Revolution, calling this terrorist who's only killing Black Haitians a revolutionary. And they've recruited a white guy in Canada to do the same. And so they started to look ridiculous. And their most recent move was to try to recruit Pan-Africanists, such as Kemi Seba, to go to Haiti and to say that, everybody should come around the same table and share power, and, there should be an armistice and peace treaty and all of that. So they tried that, and Kemi was a little bit smarter than some of the other guys, and he didn't go as far as they wanted him to go, but it was a trap. And we warned our brother not to go there, because Haitians have never identified this guy as a progressive force. We understand the game that the United States is playing in Haiti is very similar to what they're doing in the Sahel region of Western Africa, whereas they create the terrorists, they arm them, and then they go and offer their help to the government, which is also a puppet government. And then so while they're selling weapons, they are fragilizing the state so that the U.S. can send their own mercenaries and eventually their militaries to establish military bases and take over the territory. That's the game they're playing. And so Haitians are saying, the hell with this. We don't need anyone to help us to death. Get out of our country and let us take care of our business ourselves. And without regular replenishment of weapons and ammunition from the United States, these so-called terrorists would not last a month in Haiti. The population would take care of business. So, yes, it is very difficult to say that we are living up to the legacy of our ancestors on this August 14th, 2025, because the level of resistance has not risen to meet what is happening on the front of the enemy. However, you can see, for instance, this coming weekend, on Sunday, Haitians are meeting in Montreal. Among us, there will be some former members of Canadian and American militaries who know exactly how these militaries function, who are going to brainstorm as to how we're going to take Haiti away from the claws of the 15 white mafia families who control the country currently, with their accomplices in white North America, that is Canada, the United States, and Europe.
You're listening to Diasporic Music. I have a question, a 2-point question for you. In terms of Kevin Ives, does he pretend or does he claim to be a Marxist, or is he a social democrat? That's the first question. And the second question is, the Africans that came to Haiti, is it true in many situations the imperialists took different ethnic groups and mixed them up so they could not communicate? But is it true that in Haiti they basically took Africans from, I guess it was Dahomey, today it's Benin? They took the Haitians in, two Africans to Haiti in bulk. No, that's a bad thing to say. They took them and they could communicate, and that's one of the reasons why the revolution, people could communicate, that helped move the revolution forward. Or is that true or not true?
Thank you, brother, for these two excellent questions. First, with regards to Kenneth Ives, I don't know what he calls himself, but clearly he had positioned himself to the left. And his assignment was to do exactly what was done against Hugo Chavez in 2002, etc., when the U.S. was trying to overthrow him. That is to poison the left in terms of their opinion of the leadership of Haiti, so that there is not normal solidarity with the people in their uprising. And so by creating a fake revolution that takes attention away from the real solidarity movement that could have existed. Okay, so him and Dan Cohen, if you hear them talk, of course, they will take the posture that they are criticizing the government of the United States, for instance, with regards to what's happening in Gaza, with what's happening in other places. But when you look at who is saying exactly the same thing as them, it's the former right-wing U.S. ambassador to Haiti, Pamela White. So you cannot fool everybody every day. And one of the reasons why their strategy works is the tendency of people in the African communities to always be looking for some good white guy. You know the character that they use in the film Black Panthers?
Yes,
you know,
sir.
the one that the princess calls my favorite colonizer. Well, this character is what exactly these white guys are playing. And Dr. Martin Luther King dealt with them as well during the civil rights movement. They infiltrated the movement in order to subdue it, to divert it, and etc. So we're used to that kind of strategy. And the coup against President Aristide in 2004 would not have succeeded if there wasn't infiltration on the left, right, to malign the leader and to create confusion that could have been avoided. The second question with regards to the identity of Africans who revolted in Haiti is really, really something that is complex. I don't have enough information to really give you a complete answer. However, the thing that made the difference for the revolution in Haiti, as opposed to revolts that had taken place in Suriname, in Brazil, in Barbados, in Jamaica, everywhere Africans revolted from the shores of Africa during the travel from the west coast of Africa to the Americas. Like, we always revolted. But what made the difference is demographics. It's not necessarily in terms of the fact that these people spoke the same languages, because in fact, in Haiti, language was such a challenge that Creole was created, the Haitian Creole. Mm-hmm. And the Haitian Creole, you will find words from, that come from the Kingdom of Dahomey, like the Fon, the Ewe, but you also find Congo. So it's also a mix, right? So it's not so much the where the people came from. And some of us actually, like when I did my DNA test, I find even some Maasai DNA, because that's the thing in the Caribbean. Yes, people who would not have met on the African continent end up mixing their DNA in the Caribbean because of the Mahafa, the kidnapping of our ancestors. However, the ratio of Africans, enslaved Africans to whites and the free blacks or the affranchis or the mulatto was completely different in Haiti than it was, for instance, in Jamaica or Barbados. The whites in the British and the Spanish colonies were more careful to make sure that they are not overwhelmed by the number of enslaved Africans. Whereas in Haiti, at the start of the, so-called start, that's really, like I said, revolts were taking place all the way from the shores of Africa and never stopped. But at the time of the Bouakaïman revolt, there were about 450,000 Africans for 30,000 whites and another 30,000 free blacks and affranchis. So 450,000 versus 60,000, right? And that you couldn't find that anywhere else in the region. And whether it is on the island of Cuba, where the Spanish were ruling and the land that they had stolen, the ratio of whites versus blacks or indigenous people was always something that was more favorable to keeping the status quo. Whereas in Haiti, it was bound to happen, and the French became so cocky that they thought that, they could even have blacks integrate their army, become generals in their army, like Toussaint Louverture, and still serving the whites. I mean, that was totally stupid, but we like when they become stupid.
Yeah, but the Maasai part, that's East Africa. That's really fascinating when you think about it.
Yeah, it is real, but it happened.
Yes, sir.
Also, just to add is, I've heard stories that actually warriors, actually went specifically to train revolutionaries. I don't know if that's true. That's like one of the stories I heard in Haiti when I was there. So there's that too, right? Like, people knew that people were disappearing, and so they went in to train fighters, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and it is amazing, right? When we talk about these stories, we mention mostly, if not exclusively, the men. But in fact, to the point that you're raising, Sister Mali, it's actually a woman, Agbaraba Toya, who's said to be one of the Amazon warriors, right? We saw in the Woman King movie, right?
Yeah.
Viola Davis was playing that character. Well, according to the history that we have, it is one such woman who trained Dessalines, who adopted him because his mother died very, very, very early after he was born. And so this woman, we don't know how she arrived on the island, right? So what you just said, whether it was the people of Dahomey who sent her to on a special mission, we don't know. But the story is that she actually is the one who trained Dessalines in the art of close battle, and so men and women, and we have other women such as Lieutenant Sanit Belair, and sometimes it makes us smile, right, when you hear people like jokers like our former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau or Mélanie Joly talking about how they have a feminist foreign policy and they're going to Africa, they're going to Haiti, they're going to the Caribbean to teach these backwards people how to treat women right. And we had women generals in our army, okay, back in the 1800s, right? So the arrogance of white supremacy is only matched by its stupidity.
Yeah, they had whole like women's units. In the
and of course, and again, this is recent history, right? You go to Egypt and you look at the temples and you watch Hatshepsut, or you look at Queen Tiye who's standing right beside her husband. We always knew that it is the brother and the sister coming together that makes us beautiful and glorious. We don't need anybody to come and teach us that.
Yeah, you had like Queen Nzinga from Angola. We had Ya Santiwa from Ghana. We learned about these sisters a little late, because Africans were influenced by African men were influenced by white supremacy. So we had well, let me speak from a North American perspective. We had chauvinism in our movements. I think Garvey, to his credit, had women in his leadership, but a lot of the other organizations, the women may have even been in the leadership, but the men took the bows and made the exit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You look at Coretta Scott King. She's not given enough credit for all of what she's done.
Right.
The woman fought the government of the United States in court and won when she proved that there was a conspiracy by the FBI, the CIA, to murder her husband. No, you're right, brother. We have been contaminated. We've lost our ways. There are many instances where clearly chauvinism and even misogyny has infiltrated our communities. But what I mean is that we don't need those jokers to come lecture us about that. We need to take care of business ourselves.
Right. And the last thing I want to say about Coretta Scott King, she was an internationalist, like her. Well, some have even made the claim that she pushed Dr. King on the international front. But Dr. King told her when they were, as they say in the United States, when they were courting, King told her that he was a socialist. That was in 1948. He said he was a socialist, and that was part of his pitch to get her to marry him.
Yeah, indeed.
Uhuru, you're listening to Diasporic Music on Black Power 96 with Melinda Francis, and Lisa Watson is on the buttons, and we are speaking with... I wanted to ask you this question. Muhammad Ahmed, Max Stanford always used to say that unite the many to divide the few. And I remember, could you talk about the fact that when, I don't know if they were in Guyana or some, I don't know where they were, but there was a debate between Kwame Ture and Walter Rodney. Walter, uh, 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 Kwame came down and was saying uh, some things. I think Walter took it that he was trying to unite. Walter wanted to unite the Africans, Indians, Amerindians, all the working class people in Guyana, whereas Kwame was talking, giving just a racial analysis. Do you remember that? You talked about that in your book, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, Walter's approach to Black Power was that related to Africans, Indians, Amerindians, because the way the region had been colonized was the genocide against the indigenous population, the bringing of the African population from Western Central Africa to the Caribbean, and the enslavement process that took place. And at the end of the emancipation period, 1834-38, when blacks left the plantations, went into the hills, they brought in indentured Indian and later Chinese labor. So Walter's sense of what constituted Black Power was that these groups had to be brought together because they were coming out of a colonial experience as Black people. And therefore, whereas Stokely was focusing on skin color, Walter was focusing on the social and economic circumstances that in which African Indian people face. So there was a debate and controversy because, again, the Burnham position said was, in a sense, strictly if you were African, you couldn't be involved with Indian. So Burnham was more oriented in the direction of Stokely Carmichael's appeal to Black people per se. And it led to a number of blacks coming into Guyana in the 70s and 80s along those lines, which conflicted with Walter Rodney's approach, which was organically linked to the colonial experience. And Walter's approach was similar to what took place in Trinidad in the largest Black Power demonstration in the region. In Trinidad, the Black activists marched into the sugarcane belt to ask Indians to give support to the blacks because they were facing a common force. They had been through an experience, and in Guyana in 1953, the People's Progressive Party of Guyana was a united force of Africans and Indians, which won that 1953 elections and won 18 of the 25 seats in the government. When that took place, the accusation was that Chedi Jagan was a communist, and the British brought in the British warships, and suspended those elections. They only had elections after, again, when Burnham had broken with the Reagan and formed a party of black people and a party of Indian people, which was the PPP. So it was in the interest of imperialism, British imperialism, to cut asunder the unity that's been established between Indians and Africans. So I think Stokely was off the mark. I respect him and all the work that he did in the civil rights movement, of course, and in Pan-Africanism on the African continent. But on this particular matter, his position was not correct.
I remember I was almost went to Guyana. Burnham was was saying that he was welcoming Africans born in America, exiled in Guyana. But I was called. There was some other brothers from California that had gone down there, and they told me straight up, "Do not come here," because what Burnham was doing was if you went to Guyana, you were really treated well. But one of the things that you had to do was to physically come on his side and fight against his opposition.
Yes, well, that was his game at the time, and it lasted for a while, but I think it backfired eventually when the People's Progressive Party won the election, because Burnham was pretty ruthless, and he publicly rigged the elections. That was well known, and of course he was responsible for the assassination of Walter Rod in 1980.
Wasn't Burnham known as, what was his name, the Kabaka?
Kabaka, a lot of nicknames for him that were given by his opponents, particularly.
I was sentenced at Attica for a robbery in 1966. Attica was a nightmare. Conditions, overcrowded. From the moment I got there, I was conscious of the racial prejudice. The guards, they were vicious. The prison ran on anger. It ran on fright. We heard that a prisoner was killed by guards in another prison. Everybody felt like if they did it to this guy, they can do it to anybody. It wasn't planned, it was spontaneous. I came out of the shower and everything was different. I'm naked, I'm soaking wet, I'm looking around, a riot had erupted, people are crazy, and I got crazy with them. It was just total chaos, you know? It was nobody in control.
You can make out the Molotov cocktails sitting on the ramp between the two chairs in this barricade.
We seen some guards from the metal shop that was taken hostage. Some of them got beat up.
We urgently demand immediate negotiations.
Over a course of about 2 or 3 days, we tried to negotiate with the authorities, but it was all a game. It wasn't really a negotiation. It was like make-believe. Things changed. It became more serious.
10:05 a.m. September 13th. We're on the roof of A block, waiting for the assault to begin. The hostages are on the catwalks with knives at their throats.
When they stormed the prison, you know, they came in dropping gas and shooting guns. I remember guys getting shot to pieces. I seen a guy, they took his head off and blood was pouring out of the stem where his neck was. I thought I was gonna die. I had nightmares like you wouldn't believe. Scared to go to sleep. And this went on for years. It was a very defining moment in my life. It changed me because I realized how precious life is.